Imagine this. Before the story even begins, the viewer is invited to look back at their own teenage years. Have they ever had someone in class who seemed so perfect, so out of reach that just watching them walk into the room already changed the atmosphere around them? Have they ever sworn they did not care, only to later realize that this person quietly became the center of their own story? The video opens by talking directly to that memory, asking the audience to remember the first time their heart sped up for no logical reason. Then it invites them to stay until the end because this film is not just about two fictional characters, but about every unfinished feeling that people carry from adolescence into adulthood. And before diving into the plot, the narrator encourages viewers to support the channel. Subscribing and liking is framed not as a routine request, but as a way of keeping these emotional journeys alive, so that more stories like this can be revisited and reinterpreted together. The film's world is introduced through the familiar chaos of a private high school, where a tight-knit group of friends spends their days trying to escape boredom, pushing boundaries, and pretending to be in control of their own futures. Among them, there is a shared secret that is not really a secret at all. Almost everyone is fascinated by Seon-ah, the model student who seems to embody everything they are not. She is diligent, composed, and always at the top of the class, with a presence that makes teachers trust her and classmates quietly admire her from a distance. For the group of boys, she is less a person and more an unreachable ideal, the kind of girl they imagine but never dare to approach. Yet within this group, there is one outlier, Jin-woo, the troublemaker with poor grades who insists loudly that he does not understand the fuss. In his eyes, or at least in the way he performs his role, Seon-ah is just another classmate, someone who belongs firmly to the world of good students, which he believes has no place for him. This denial is the first important layer of the script. Jin-woo's role in the group is clear. He is the one who makes jokes, causes distractions, and turns classes into improvised shows to avoid dealing with expectations and insecurity. His lack of ambition is not born from confidence but from fear of failure, and the film never says that directly. Instead, it shows it through his disruptive behavior and his lazy approach to school. The boys, each with their own quirks and immaturities, orbit Seon-ah from afar, while Jin-woo tries to prove that he is above that kind of admiration. And yet, storytelling-wise, this is precisely what announces that he will be the one to approach her for real. The script uses this contrast to set up a classic dynamic, the apparently incompatible duo whose paths are forced to cross. That turning point arrives in the form of a classroom incident that pushes both of them into a shared consequence. Instead of giving a grand romantic beginning, the story chooses embarrassment and inconvenience as the spark that will change everything. The punishment the two receive from their teacher becomes the device that locks them into each other's orbit. Suddenly, the model student and the restless troublemaker share the same space, away from the noise of the group and from the protective image Seon-ah maintains at school. The narrative slows down here, focusing on small interactions, awkward silence, cautious glances, and the gradual discovery that each of them is more complex than the roles the school has assigned to them. Jin-woo is surprised to find that Seon-ah notices details about him that others ignore. She sees the doodles in his notebook, the offhand remarks that reveal imagination rather than just laziness. Meanwhile, he discovers that behind Seon-ah's flawless performance lies intense pressure, a life built around expectations and constant self-control. The script uses these moments to question the idea of types in high school. The good girl and the problem boy are not stereotypes, but masks that crumble when someone finally pays attention for more than a few seconds. The relationship starts not with declarations, but with curiosity. Seon-ah becomes intrigued by Jin-woo's lack of a clear dream, something that stands in stark contrast to her own tightly planned path. For her, the future has always been a straight line. Top grades, entrance into a prestigious university in Seoul, and a life that follows the script adults have set. For Jin-woo, the future has always been vague and distant, something he avoids thinking about. The film uses their study sessions as a laboratory of transformation. As Seon-ah tutors Jin-woo, the audience sees him gradually shift from someone who sabotages himself to someone who dares to compete academically, even if at first he hides it behind jokes and bravado. Their dynamic becomes playful and competitive, culminating in a bet tied to exam results that, on the surface, is trivial, but symbolically represents their different relationships with success and appearances. When Seon-ah wins and Jin-woo must face the consequences, the scene reveals both vulnerability and mutual respect, as each one quietly acknowledges how much the other has changed them. Through these interactions, the script cleverly uses comedy to disguise emotional growth. Humor emerges from the group of friends' reactions to Jin-woo's evolving priorities, from his exaggerated confidence after studying, and from the small everyday absurdities of high school life. Still, beneath the jokes, there is a constant tension between who these characters are and who they think they should be. Seon-ah starts to see Jin-woo not as a disruption to discipline, but as someone who refuses to pretend he has everything figured out, and that honesty fascinates her. Jin-woo, in turn, realizes that Seon-ah's apparent perfection does not protect her from anxiety or doubts. The script allows the audience to watch them learn to rely on each other, not only academically, but emotionally. Their moments together are never grandiose or melodramatic. Instead, they are built on shared routines, inside jokes, and the common experience of being on the brink of adulthood without a clear manual. The narrative then stretches beyond the typical high school romance, following the characters as they approach graduation and the decisive exams that will shape their futures. Here, the genre of coming-of-age becomes stronger than the romantic label. The film shows nights of intense studying, group pressure, family expectations, and the quiet fear of not living up to what everyone anticipates. Jin-woo, motivated both by pride and by his growing connection with Seon-ah, pushes himself harder than ever, aiming for a university in Seoul, convinced that staying close to her is part of his unspoken plan. For once, his energy is not used to escape responsibility, but to reach something that has finally become important to him. The camera and editing emphasize this transition, contrasting earlier scenes of mischief with later scenes of concentration and determination, showing that personal change often happens not in big speeches, but in repetitive, quiet effort. The turning point arrives when the long-awaited results do not align with Seon-ah's expectations. Jin-woo manages to secure his place at a university in Seoul, seemingly rewarded for his late but intense commitment. Seon-ah, however, faces a harsh setback. A crucial mistake during the entrance exam alters her path completely. The film portrays this not through graphic dramatization, but through emotional breakdown, silence, and the weight of disappointment. For someone who has always represented control and success, this deviation from the plan dismantles her self-image and shakes the foundation of her relationship with Jin-woo. He, excited by his own achievement, is forced to confront the reality that his victory coincides with her pain, and the scene in which they meet reflects that collision of emotions. Instead of celebrating together, they stand at the edge of a crossroads neither had anticipated, and the tone of the film subtly shifts from hopeful adolescence to the bittersweet realism of early adulthood. From there, physical distance becomes symbolic of emotional distance. Jin-woo goes to study in Seoul, while Seon-ah follows a different academic route in another region, and the romance that once thrived on shared spaces and daily contact must now survive on messages, calls, and intermittent encounters. The script carefully portrays how miscommunication grows not from cruelty, but from timing, pride, and unspoken fears. They both try to maintain their connection, but small misunderstandings accumulate, and silence begins to speak louder than words. The editing plays a crucial role here, intercutting scenes of each character building a new life apart, while the memories of high school become both a comfort and a burden. The film uses this separation to explore a painful but universal question. Is first love strong enough to survive when the world no longer revolves around the same classroom, the same corridors, the same old routines? As years pass, the narrative transitions from youthful spontaneity to the rhythm of adult responsibilities. The group of friends that once shared everything starts to drift in different directions, each following their own path, with occasional reunions that highlight how much has changed. Jin-woo continues to chase his ambitions and grows into someone more focused and mature, though traces of the playful teenager he once was still surface in certain situations. Seon-ah, despite the setback, reconstructs her path with determination, redefining success on her own terms rather than simply aligning with the expectations that once guided her. Their relationship becomes a series of almosts, almost meeting at the right time, almost saying what they truly feel, almost reclaiming the simplicity they had in high school. The film's strength lies in showing how life moves forward regardless of unfinished stories, forcing the characters to decide whether to cling to the past or accept that some connections are meant to transform rather than remain unchanged. In its final stretch, the film works as an emotional mirror for the audience, especially for those who once believed that their teenage love would define the rest of their lives. The climax does not rely on exaggerated drama, but on the accumulated weight of years, regrets, and what-ifs. By then, the viewer has seen how Jin-woo and Seon-ah shaped each other's identities, even while drifting apart. Their journey demonstrates that some people enter a life not to stay forever in the same role, but to push someone toward growth, to awaken ambition, or to show that vulnerability is not weakness. The editing and direction highlight small visual echoes between the past and present, reinforcing the idea that memories do not vanish. They evolve, gaining new meanings as people mature. The ending invites reflection rather than delivering a neatly tied-up resolution, leaving room for interpretation about what truly matters, the destination, or the transformation experienced along the way. From a narrative perspective, A Menina dos Meus Olhos stands out because it treats adolescence not as a simple prelude to real life, but as a defining chapter that continues to resonate long after the characters leave school. It balances humor and emotion, making the viewer laugh at the chaos of youth in one scene and then reflect on their own missed opportunities in the next. The romance between Jin-woo and Seon-ah is central, but the screenplay uses it as a vehicle to discuss broader themes: pressure to succeed, fear of failure, friendship, and the difficulty of communicating genuine feelings when people are still learning who they are. The performances of Jin-young and Da-yoon bring authenticity to this journey, capturing both the awkwardness of teenage interactions and the quiet pain of adult compromise. The warm cinematography and dynamic editing amplify the emotional beats of the story, using music and pacing to guide the audience through a roller coaster of nostalgia and self-recognition. As the video reaches its final minutes, the narrator turns directly to the viewer again, tying the story back to the audience's own life. It asks whether they have ever had someone like Seon-ah or Jin-woo, a person who entered their life at the exact moment they needed to grow, even if things did not end in the way they once imagined. It suggests that this film is not just about first love, but about how people handle the moment when dreams and reality no longer match perfectly. Then a final question is posed, intentionally open and provocative. If they were in Jin-woo's place, would they hold on to that first love no matter how much time has passed, or would they accept that some connections are meant to remain as cherished memories? The narrator invites viewers to share their interpretations and experiences in the comments, turning the end of the video into the beginning of a conversation. And once more, it encourages them to subscribe and like, not just as a favor, but as a way of continuing this shared exploration of stories that echo real emotions long after the credits roll.